A lone Greek soldier stands before a monk. The monk is naked, unmoving, silent. No commands, no threats, no fear. The soldier pauses and lets his sword fall to the ground. That moment, simple, quiet, would change history, and no one saw it coming. 2,300 years ago, entire bands of Greek warriors, men bred for battle, glory, and empire, laid down their weapons and became Buddhist monks. Their story disappeared into the shadows of time, until now. Hey wisdom seekers, Matt here from Buddha's Wisdom. This story, it's like finding out your super strict math teacher used to be in a punk rock band. Total surprise. Just picture this. Greek warriors, those muscular, spear-wielding, armor-clad legends, suddenly giving up the life of war to become monks, a full-on spiritual career change. And it gets crazier. Greek kings themselves bowing to the Buddha. And here's a mind-blower. Greeks were actually the first to create Buddha statues. Yep, the iconic Buddha faces you see today, Greek hands sculpted them. Hidden in Buddhist temples across Asia, in carvings, columns, and even ancient texts, are Greek secrets that went unnoticed for centuries. We're talking lost kingdoms, hidden monasteries, warrior kings turned philosophers, one of the greatest untold stories in history. And at the heart of it all was one man, Pyrrho, a Greek soldier who returned home with revolutionary ideas that still shape modern philosophy. Let's rewind. The year is 326 BCE. Alexander's army reaches the borders of India. The most powerful army in the world, 40,000 strong, unstoppable. They'd carved through Persia, laid waste to cities. No one could stand in their way. Until they met men who didn't even wear clothes. Alexander's soldiers called them gymnosophists, naked philosophers. These weren't charlatans or circus performers. These were Buddhist monks. They owned nothing, feared nothing, felt no pain, and their discipline left the battle-hardened Greeks stunned. In the forests near Taxila, monks meditated for days without moving. Some pressed red-hot iron to their skin without so much as a flinch. Others stood balanced on one leg from dawn to dusk. No trickery, just absolute mastery over body and mind. One monk, Dandamas, famously refused Alexander's invitation to join his court. When threatened with death, he calmly replied, "The Greeks wrote down every word." Alexander's captain, Onesicritus, recorded an encounter with a monk named Calanus. With a simple line drawn in the dirt, Calanus taught a lesson about life and impermanation that left even these seasoned warriors silent. Some Greek soldiers scoffed, called them madmen, but others saw something deeper. These monks lived without fear, without need, without the endless hunger for more. A peace Alexander's treasure chests could never buy. And one soldier, Pyrrho, was forever changed. Before India, Pyrrho was an artist turned warrior. But what he saw among these monks, it shattered everything he thought he knew. He spent 18 months studying with them. His student, Lyman, later wrote that Pyrrho was most fascinated by this core Buddhist idea. Suffering isn't caused by the world itself, but by our opinions about it. When Pyrrho returned to Greece, the story spread fast. Some said he was so detached he'd walk in front of speeding wagons, probably a tall tale, but it made a point. What's certain is this: Pyrrho started a whole new way of thinking in Greece, a blend of Buddhist wisdom and Greek questioning. The result? Greek skepticism, a philosophy teaching that peace comes from letting go of rigid beliefs, suspending judgment, and embracing uncertainty. His students would later say they were following the Buddha in Greek clothes, and it caught fire. In the military camps, Greek soldiers debated, if true power comes from mastering yourself, not others, then what was the point of conquest? If happiness comes from wanting nothing, why fight for gold and glory? Even Alexander himself was captivated. He spent hours questioning the monks about life, death, and the soul. But this was only the beginning. As more Greeks crossed into India, kingdoms rose, cultures blended, and the Greeks didn't just absorb Buddhism, they transformed it. At the city of Taxila, a major center of learning, Greek philosophers met Buddhist masters in daily debates. It wasn't just polite chatter, this was a clash of civilizations. Greek logic met Buddhist teachings on emptiness. Aristotle's physics confronted Buddhist impermanence.
And these debates were so profound that they were written down on palm leaves, copper plates. Some still survive today. The Greeks were proud of their intellectual traditions. They loved debate. But here, in Taxila, they encountered a different style. Simple questions that unraveled the most complex arguments. At Taxila's great university, a Greek philosopher once pressed a monk about the nature of reality. The monk simply smiled. And in that smile was an answer no logic could touch. This all happened at a pivotal moment. The Mauryan Empire was rising, and King Chandragupta, soon to rule most of India, was watching closely. His grandson, Ashoka, would later become Buddhism's greatest patron. Meanwhile, Greek settlements spread across Bactria and Gandhara. Trade routes connected Athens to Pataliputra. Greek coins mingled with Indian currency. Greek theater began influencing Indian drama. And quietly, Buddhist ideas flowed west as Greek art moved east. But the deepest shift wasn't political or artistic, it was philosophical. The monks taught suffering isn't out there, it's in your own mind. To warriors raised to conquer the world, this turned everything upside down. And it would ripple through generations of Greek thought, from the skeptics to the Neoplatonists. Yet the greatest transformation was still to come. Because as Alexander's empire fractured, something unexpected arose: the Indo-Greek kingdom. Greek rulers speaking Sanskrit. Greek cities with Buddhist stupas. A fusion of cultures no one saw coming. This remarkable kingdom flourished from 180 BCE to 10 CE. For nearly 2 centuries, Greek rulers ruled Buddhist lands, not just through military might, but through cultural revolution. And the evidence? It's buried beneath the sands of modern Afghanistan and Pakistan. At Khanum, archaeologists uncovered a Greek gymnasium next to Indian shrines, Greek pottery beside Buddhist relics, inscriptions in Greek and Aramaic, sometimes even Sanskrit, sometimes all on the same stone. The city itself told the story. Greek columns lining streets that led to Buddhist stupas. In one building, a treasury held Greek coins side by side with Indian jewelry. A stone bore Delphic maxims in Greek, while nearby, Buddhist texts were inscribed on palm leaves using Greek script. At the heart of this fusion was King Menander, known to Indians as Milinda. And his story? We'll get to that in the next part.
So, let's pick up where we left off. King Menander, or Milinda. At the height of his reign, around 150 BCE, his Indo-Greek kingdom stretched from what is now Afghanistan across Pakistan deep into northern India. But here's what made him different. This wasn't some brutal empire of plunder. It was a cultural revolution. Archaeologists have uncovered his coins all across this vast region. On some, he appears as a classic Greek warrior. On others, a Buddhist devotee, sometimes even shown seated in meditation. One remarkable coin? It shows the first known image of a Greek king sitting in the lotus position. Imagine that, a king who could have had anything, choosing philosophy over riches. It's like winning the lottery and spending it on a library membership. But that was Menander, a seeker, not just a ruler. And the texts back it up. The Milinda Pañha, or The Questions of King Milinda, records his legendary dialogues with the Buddhist monk Nagasena. These weren't casual chats. They were deep philosophical debates, blueprints for a new kind of kingdom where East and West truly blended. And the archaeology supports the stories. Buddhist monasteries with Greek columns, meditation halls built with the proportions of Greek theaters. In Taxila, excavations revealed a fascinating structure, a Greek temple that had been converted into a Buddhist monastery. The foundation, pure Greek architecture. The upper levels, Buddhist elements. Layer by layer, stone by stone, you can see the cultural fusion happening right there in the walls. And the discoveries keep coming. At Bamiyan, where the famous giant Buddhas once stood, traces of Greek pigments were found in the original paint. In Hada, archaeologists uncovered thousands of Buddha statues with distinctly Greek features. The face of Apollo, reborn as the Buddha. At Bagram, Greek-style glassworks sat alongside Indian ivory carvings, treasures from a world where East met West. But it wasn't just royal art. The fusion touched everyday life. Clay lamps with Hercules on one side, Buddha on the other. Children's toys, tiny figurines of Greek soldiers seated in meditation. Kitchen pots with Greek patterns, but Indian cooking residues. This wasn't two cultures merely living side by side. It was something new, an organic, unexpected blend. For nearly 3 centuries, these Indo-Greek kingdoms thrived. They gave birth to a unique synthesis. Greek astronomy mingling with Indian mathematics. Greek drama influencing Buddhist storytelling. And most importantly, Greek art reshaping how the world saw the Buddha. You see, before the Greeks arrived, no one dared to depict the Buddha's face. From his death in 483 BCE, for almost 300 years, the only images used were symbols, footprints, an empty throne, a lotus flower. Then the Greeks showed up, with their fearless, challenge accepted attitude, and they changed everything. In Gandhara, the region around modern Pakistan and Afghanistan, Greek sculptors took Buddhist ideas and gave them form. Using local schist stone and Greek artistic techniques, they crafted the first Buddha statues. The stone's dark color allowed for subtle shadows, perfect for conveying meditation's inner calm. They used Greek proportion systems, the same mathematical ratios used to build the Parthenon, to shape the Buddha's face. Every detail was precise. The distance between the eyes, the curve of the lips, the arch of the brows. Look closely at those early Buddhas and you'll see it. Wavy hair? That's pure Apollo. The gentle smile? Greek ideal. The flowing robes, styled after Greek statues.
But then, something new emerged, Buddhist symbols layered on top. The Ushnisha, the bump on the head, symbolizing wisdom. Elongated earlobes, a nod to the Buddha's royal past. The Urna, the dot between the eyebrows, symbolizing spiritual insight. The fusion went deeper than the surface. Greek artists learned how to portray concepts, abstract Buddhist ideas,
through visual form. A Buddha's half-closed eyes reflect the balance between awareness and detachment. The robes, though Greek in cut, reveal no body, suggesting freedom from physical form. These Greek artists were like the original Instagram filters. Let's take Apollo's hair, add some enlightenment, and boom, Buddha's new look. And this new visual language, it spread like wildfire. Merchants carried these small Buddha statues along the Silk Road. Chinese pilgrims took sketches back home. Each region adapted the style. In Korea, faces became more angular. In China, softer features appeared. In Japan, refined proportions. But at the core, the Greek sense of divine human beauty remained. In India, Ajanta cave paintings merged Greek naturalism with flowing Indian lines. In Sri Lanka, serene Buddha smiles still carried that original Greek essence. Even in Southeast Asia, amidst elaborate local styles, you can still spot those Greek proportions. And here's the real magic. These weren't just beautiful artworks. They solved a deep philosophical riddle. How do you depict someone who taught that the self doesn't exist? Greek artists found a way, a serene face beyond ego, expressing the timeless state of enlightenment. In the ruins of Gandharan workshops, archaeologists found practice pieces, fragments of carved ears, perfected eyebrow arches, idealized meditation poses. These weren't mere copies, they were the birth of a visual language that would carry Buddhism across continents and centuries. Every Buddhist statue you see today, in a temple, a museum, even a garden shop, still carries the fingerprints of those long-forgotten Greek sculptors. But the story doesn't stop with art. Hidden in ancient monasteries and desert caves, scrolls have been found, revealing an even deeper connection between Greek and Buddhist thought. In 1994, in Afghanistan, fragments of bark manuscripts were unearthed, Greek letters spelling Buddhist teachings. That's right, the monks weren't just borrowing Greek art, they were writing their sacred texts in Greek. The Gandharan scrolls turned everything we thought we knew on its head. They show Buddhist monks grappling with Greek philosophical ideas, using pneuma for consciousness, cosmos for the universe, adapting Aristotle's logic to explain Buddhist causation. In Taxila, a copper scroll even begins with a quote from Pythagoras, linking Greek harmony with Buddhist inner peace. This wasn't cultural borrowing, it was true synthesis. And that synthesis would ripple across history in ways the world is still uncovering.
And here's where things get really fascinating. As these Greek Buddhist scrolls were translated and copied, they became bridges between two worlds, and their influence spread far beyond India. One scroll fragment shows a Buddhist monk explaining sunyata, emptiness, using the Greek term kenon, the void, but with careful notes showing how Buddhist emptiness wasn't quite the same as the Greek concept. These weren't just translators, they were bridge builders, philosophers crafting entirely new ways of thinking. Some scrolls even capture debates between Greek and Buddhist thinkers. A Greek philosopher insists truth must be permanent, unchanging. A Buddhist monk replies, using Greek logic, that change itself is the only constant. In the margins, later readers left their own comments in both scripts, continuing these debates across generations. And it wasn't just philosophy. At Bamiyan, in the famous caves, archaeologists found evidence that Greek doctors and Buddhist monks had been exchanging medical knowledge. Astronomers used Greek calculations to time Buddhist festivals, Musicians applied Greek harmonics to Buddhist chants. Think about it. It's like the ancient world's greatest crossover episode. Hippocrates and the Buddha swapping notes. And the impact kept growing. Philosophical dialogues in the scrolls show Greek philosophers beginning to adopt Buddhist ideas, writing about karma, about mindfulness in Greek terms. Some Greek philosophers even began practicing meditation themselves. This wasn't East borrowing from West or vice versa. It was a true meeting of minds. And the ripple effects? Massive. In Alexandria, Greek philosophers started teaching meditation methods that sound eerily similar to Buddhist techniques. Early Christian monks, the Desert Fathers, developed practices of silence, contemplation, and self-inquiry that mirror Greek Buddhist teachings. Was this coincidence, or had those ancient dialogues left their mark? Neo-Platonist thinkers like Plotinus wrote about emptying the mind, transcending the ego, ideas that would have been radical in Plato's time, but very familiar to a Buddhist monk. Further east, these influences show up in Chan Buddhism, which later became Zen in Japan. Its focus on direct experience over scripture, its use of paradox to break habitual thinking. These echo the Greek Buddhist debates. Even the famous Zen koans, those baffling, mind-bending riddles, may have roots in ancient Greek philosophical puzzles. And it didn't stop there. When Islamic scholars translated Greek philosophy and Buddhist wisdom side by side, Sufi mystics absorbed these teachings. Their whirling meditations, it parallels descriptions of circular contemplation in Greek texts. Even logic itself was transformed. Buddhist debaters, armed with Greek techniques, developed new forms of argument still used in Tibetan monastic debates today. When Tibetan monks clap and stamp their feet during debates, that's a method honed through centuries of Greek Buddhist synthesis. In Japanese Zen art, the use of empty space reflects both Buddhist thought and Greek ideas about the void. Persian miniatures show sages in Greek poses, Buddha-like in their serenity. When Renaissance scholars in Europe rediscovered these texts, a new curiosity about Eastern wisdom began to stir, laying the groundwork for the spiritual exchanges we see today. And these aren't just ancient curiosities. Modern neuroscience, mindfulness-based therapies, they're the latest chapter in a story that began 2,300 years ago. When psychologists today use mindfulness to treat anxiety, they're drawing on techniques first explored in those Greek Buddhist monasteries. The practice of noting thoughts without judgment appears word for word in ancient Greek Buddhist scrolls.
Even in architecture, the echoes remain. The precise measurements of Thai temples, the symmetry of Korean monasteries, the geometry of Tibetan mandalas, all carry the imprint of Greek mathematical principles filtered through Buddhist vision. And the tradition of radical questioning, of challenging all assumptions, lives on. When beat poets like Allen Ginsberg fused Greek Dionysian energy with Buddhist meditation, they weren't inventing something new. They were reviving an ancient flame. When modern philosophers use Buddhist logic to explore ethics, they're continuing a conversation that began between Pyrrho and those naked monks. Even Christian monasticism bears the imprint. The Desert Fathers' emphasis on silence and contemplation echoes those long-ago Greek Buddhist exchanges. The last Greek Buddhist monastery may have fallen over 1,000 years ago, but the experiment continues. Every time a scientist studies meditation's effects on the brain, every time a therapist teaches mindfulness,
Every time East and West meet in dialogue, they're building on a legacy that began when a Greek soldier laid down his sword before a silent monk. And there may be more to uncover. Recent satellite images from remote valleys in Afghanistan show strange patterns, what could be ruins of massive monastery complexes, untouched for centuries. Could these be the legendary monasteries where Greek and Buddhist thinkers first forged their alliance? We may yet find out. But here's the deeper truth. The real treasures aren't buried in the ground. They're in the ideas these ancient philosophers shared, ideas that transcended borders, languages, and time. They proved that when minds meet openly, when warriors become seekers, when kings become students, something greater emerges. In a world still divided between East and West, their example matters now more than ever. Next time you see a Buddha statue, look closer at that serene Greek face. When you hear about scientists studying meditation, remember the Greek philosophers who first took that journey. And when someone says East and West can never truly understand each other, remember the lost Greek Buddhists. They didn't just build bridges, they showed us the bridges were always there. And perhaps always will be. Hey, wisdom seekers! If you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest cultural fusion, hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you don't miss what we discover next. And remember, this isn't Sparta. This is Buddha's wisdom, where we fight with mindfulness, not spears. See you next time.